our health because we vibrate, essentially. We are energetic beings. And so all the energy that makes up the human body is connected inextricably with the subtle energy that makes up what we call our astral body or our energy body. And both of these bodies resonate and vibrate in sort of harmonic frequencies of each other. And when we're healthy and well, those vibrations are harmonious, steady, strong. But when we have negative emotions, and especially if we have negative emotions that we carry with us for weeks to months to years, that vibration becomes distorted. Instead of being harmonious, it's a little bit out of whack. And that being out of the ideal harmonious frequencies of positive health means that various processes taking place in our cells are interfered with. So instead of producing the right number of proteins for a particular cell, some of those proteins may be malformed because the vibration is out of kilter. Some of the sort of innate intelligence coming from the energy body can get distorted. And so it doesn't manifest in the most healthful way in our cells. And we're doing this to ourselves, where we're vibrating out of harmony with the clear and intelligent manifestation of the physical body that ensures health, and instead we're distorting it. So that's one thing, one power that we wield both positively and negatively. When we're really healthy, we're generally wielding it very well. Belief is a power that is kind of astonishingly strong, astonishingly able to shape our bodies. I used some examples in the talk 2 weeks ago about not near-death experiencers, although there are good stories there too, but multiple personality disorder sufferers who essentially each personality has unique physiological characteristics because each personality believes unequivocally, deeply, whatever it is they believe. And you only, you only see that difference when one personality changes into another. And that new personality's unquestioned, deeply held beliefs can change the body in remarkable ways. You can have scars that come and go between personalities. You can have different degrees of sightedness. You can have different colored eyes. And those are just the visible aspects of it. You can also be changing your level of health. You can be changing the proteins your body is producing. You can be upregulating or deregulating DNA in every cell in positive ways and in negative ways as each personality comes in and the other personality goes out. So we don't notice that so much with ourselves from day to day because our deep convictions about ourselves and about our health don't change that often. They don't change that dramatically. but they're nonetheless, in a way, they're just as miraculous as the cases where somebody dramatically transforms from a sick body to a well body. And it's just as miraculous because without our beliefs shaping the energy body, we wouldn't have a physical body. We're manifesting a physical body in accordance with our energy and our belief in every moment. And that makes us always miraculous, if you will. And then finally, the greatest power we have really is our ability to connect to spirit. Because when we connect to spirit, we expand our beliefs beyond the limited sort of physical convictions we have about who we are and what we are. And we begin to, through that connection to spirit, experience ourselves, feel ourselves to be spiritual beings. And that profoundly changes those beliefs that are very difficult to get at. And then connecting to spirit also profoundly changes our emotions. The kind of essence of emotion is the essence of spirit. Yogananda and Sri Yukteswar describe spirit as ever new joy. And it's sort of a fascinating definition, because when I was in college and studying philosophy and trying to understand what higher consciousness was, trying to understand what the infinite was, it was always described in terms of it's absolute or it's infinite. And almost never did I run into anything prior to Yogananda's definition that got to the heart of the experience of God and our oneness with God. And we experience it primarily through joy. So when we connect to spirit and we automatically are connecting to joy, that's transformative to our emotions. It builds positive emotions. It makes us feel calmer and more relaxed and more elevated and more energized because we're connecting to that amazing power of ever new joy that is spirit. So those are our three powers that we can wield for better and for worse. So I'll leave it there and open up to questions.
Just while people are typing in, I thought last week you shared a little bit about the fact that recently you were involved in a car accident and had a fractured neck. And it'd be interesting to hear your healing process using these principles, because it'd be really wonderful if you could share with us a little bit about that journey.
Sure. I was driving with a friend. He was driving. I was in the passenger seat. And we both got distracted. I was looking down at my feet, trying to do something with a bag I had of things. And he was looking out the window. And all of a sudden I looked up, and it was one of those, when you see it, it's too late to do anything kind of experiences. There was the back of a giant truck, an 18-wheeler. And my friend Doss turned around just in time to crash into it. Now, in his older truck, unfortunately for me, my airbag didn't deploy. His airbag deployed, and he was able to walk away and was fine. I mean, I'm sure he was sore and a little more than a little freaked out. But my head, which normally would hit that nice pillow of airbag, right? It just kept going forward. And it caused my neck to bend in a way that necks are not designed to bend. And it kind of didn't chip it off, but it cracked the corner of one vertebrae and it contused another, meaning it kind of squashed it. And those were about as minor a condition that you can have and still call it having a broken neck. So mainly what happened to me was that in my head going forward so rapidly and stretching in a way that is not natural, it stretched the nerves and the gray matter that was in my spinal column, is in my spinal column. So I went from about C6 to T2, for those of you who are up on your the names of your vertebrae. I started to go, as we're waiting for the ambulance to show up and the paramedics to come and do their magic, I couldn't lift my head. And a woman who was there at the scene of the crime, who was very sweet. I mean, she's sort of an angel kind of person. I tear up if I talk about it too much. But she basically said, don't try to move. What I really, really wanted to do was, lift my head, get my head back up straight. Because not only was my head bent forward, but my chest was compressed and I was having a hard time breathing. But she kept saying, don't move, they'll be here, everything will be fine. So I didn't move. But as I was sitting there, not moving, I could sense my awareness of my body parts going away. So it was first my left leg, and then it was my right leg, and then it was my left arm and right arm, and so on. And at some point, I think I passed out. But I came to when they had me on the emergency board, and my head was back, finally, on the emergency board with a neck brace on, as you would imagine. But even as I was slowly losing sensation in my body, I was having an internal conversation with Master and Sri Yukteswar. And I surprised myself in a way that the power of this was not something that I, took a deep breath and wielded. The power of this was that it was something I'd been developing for 50 years as a meditator. So I wasn't feeling unsafe. I wasn't feeling shocked. I wasn't feeling any sense of alarm. I just felt, okay, this is what's happening. And so from that kind of point of view, my conversation with Master and Sri Yukteswar was, I don't know how bad this is, but, if you want me to, I was in the middle of a book, I was in the middle of this book, ironically. I said, if you want me to finish, if you want me to keep going and serving in this way, I think you're going to have to do some healing. And I wasn't demanding healing. I was very calm and just accepting of the whole situation, which I really do attribute to, years of meditation. It just came to me without me having to make an effort to come to me. So once they got me on the board and my head was back, I started feeling this flood of energy flowing. Now, I'll be honest with you, to this day, I don't know whether the flood of energy I was feeling was healing. It felt healing. I think, in fact, it did heal. But what I don't know, and I can't honestly tell you, is did it heal because it was an extraordinary experience, or would I have felt that same way that you feel when your leg that's been asleep wakes up, right? And you get energy flowing back into some part of you that has gone to sleep, as they say. So, but at any rate, I just felt this huge surge of energy over and over and over coming up through the body, and I felt blessed. Whatever it was, I felt blessed, and I felt like it was taking care of me. By this time I was in a helicopter, and there were 2 paramedics in the helicopter with me. And once I kind of woke up and I was lying on my back and my head was in a normal position, I started experimentally able to move my body. So I started moving my feet, moving my hands, and kind of shifting my body around. And one paramedic said to the other, "Oh, look, he's moving." Because I think they were, 9/10 convinced I was never going to move anything ever again, right? Which could be the case in such an accident. But, I knew differently. I never did have that feeling like it was that bad. But he commented on it to the other guy, and then there was a pause, and then you have to find humor where you can find it. He leaned over to me and he said, "Do you know that you're moving your feet and your hands?" He wanted to find out if I was just having some sort of spastic episode that I had no control over. And I was happily able to tell him yes. So that was kind of the experience. That was the healing experience as well as the accident experience. Then for 2 weeks, I was in rehab, but I regained control of parts of my body that I had lost some of very quickly. So when I first woke up in the hospital in the next morning, a couple of people came to evaluate what I could and couldn't do. So they asked me to raise my arm. So I raised my right arm, and they said, "Raise your left," raise my left. And I got about that far and it just flopped. And I could tell that I wasn't really able to use my left hand very well. And then I found out once I got into rehab that when I tried to walk, I could walk, but my left leg kind of dragged. And so, bless them, I had a really great crew of physical therapists I got lucky. This hospital is like the #1 hospital in California for this kind of spinal cord injury rehab. People kind of get sent there from all over California. And so I had great people. But after a while, I began to be a little amused by the fact that their job was to assess what I needed to learn in order to cope with a life of disability. And so they would, start working with my left hand, and they'd say, "Well, try doing this. And, maybe, if it persists, you'll be able to pick things up this way." They were just preparing me for not ever recovering this loss. But by the time I had the next session, I'd already recovered that. And so they had to go, "Oh, okay. What hasn't, healed? What hasn't come back to you?" And I was healing faster than they could tell me how to take care of them. So again, I attribute that to my belief that I already had. I didn't have to suddenly, try to believe something or frantically try to read a book and get some sort of guidance from it. I was just very confident that I would heal, that there was no physical ailment that couldn't heal. So it never occurred to me that I wouldn't heal. And so I did. So I think in the main, what I was able to do in this accident was stay in positive emotion, not compound the problem by having waves of fear, reverberating through my body that would have interfered with the healing process. And then I had complete faith that I could recover all aspects of anything I lost. And I think that just helped it come back really quickly. To be honest, I didn't have the belief that I could just tell myself I was completely well and I would be completely well in the next moment. I believe that's possible. I believe that level of belief is something that we are heirs to. I just didn't have it. But I believed it sort of more slowly. I just expected that it would take a while, and it took a while, and it did come back. And then all throughout that, I felt connected to God. I felt connected to spirit. I felt that I was living without fear, and whatever was going to happen was fine with me. If I was worried about anyone, I was worried about my wife, Lakshmi, because I didn't want her to have to, have a lifetime of taking care of me because I couldn't take care of myself. But I never worried about myself, and I never really believed that level of long-term disability was ever going to happen. So that's my story, and that's how it weaves in with these principles. I really wish I could say something like I was completely broken and I willed myself into standing up and walking and I felt the voice of God, but no, it wasn't that dramatic. But it worked just as well, just took a little longer.
Well, that was really well expressed, and just thank you for sharing that. I don't think a lot of us have heard your full experience and how you applied these principles. And also, like you said, that life of meditation, when it came to a moment of karma, you were able to get through it and applying all that you've written on your own so we can learn. So thank you for that.
Well, the cool thing is that I didn't have to do anything.
Right.
I didn't have to apply anything. I didn't have to say, now it's time to use my soul powers. They were there. They had already been developed, and they just carried me through. So don't wait to get ill before you develop your soul powers. Develop them now. They'll make you happier. They'll make you healthier anyway, but they will definitely help you with serious illness or accident.
Thank you. That's a very important part of it. We did get a lovely question, so I'll go ahead and read it. It's in chapter 10. So this is referring to your book because Monica's very studious, wonderful. She's marked the page for you, page 91. She's quoting from the book, "The most important expectation I would like to set for you is that any degree to which your emotions become more positive, your beliefs in unlimited health become deeper, or your connection to spirit becomes greater, will improve your health and strengthen your innate ability to self-heal." And then she's asking, could you talk a little more about becoming fully open-hearted and trusting to spirit when there are chronic negative emotions, such as those on the next page after that? So if you could share a bit more about that.
Well, that is a great question, Monica. And I think that what I'm about to share is not coming necessarily from me as somebody who is, divined this principle and figured it out. Yogananda talked about it, Kriyananda talked about it, and I've always, endeavored to live it. But the principle I'm referring to is rather than try to fix your negative emotions, try instead to lift your heart, to lift your emotions into positive experience. And I think this piece that I already talked about, that our emotions are subtle vibrations reverberating through our both our physical body and our subtle energy body, is a good handle to have on how you change your emotions. Your emotions aren't an experience that you have to fix. Your emotions are a vibrating reaction to things in your life. And that vibrating pattern is kind of becomes independent of whatever it was that caused it. So your emotional pattern, your feeling of energy, if you're feeling unhappy, you're gonna feel like a drag on the heart. You're gonna feel that your energies are being pulled down. And this will manifest as sadness, as unhappiness. It will also tend to manifest as feeling low energy. People who are depressed have a very difficult time raising enough energy to do anything. It's one of the kind of insidious challenges of depression, is that what you really need to do to overcome depression, you really don't want to do. You really don't feel like you've got the energy to lift yourself up. And you end up kind of just being held down by that depression. But the key is, by seeing it as energy and depersonalizing it, in the sense that you don't really need to know why you're feeling sad. You don't really need to know why you're feeling down. You might know, but you don't need to know to fix it. And the way you fix it is you perform various exercises that literally raise the energy in the spine, which lifts the energy in the heart up into the brain. So the simplest of them all is just a breathing exercise. If you're feeling a little low and you don't really know why, or you're just tired of feeling low, it's as simple as this: take 5 deep breaths. Don't think about anything. Full exhalation out, full exhalation in, hold it for a little bit, exhale out, inhale in. And even with 5, if you pay attention and you do it deeply, you should feel that the energy in your heart has lightened to some degree. It's uplifted to some degree. So when you meditate, think also of your energy rising in the body, rising up through the chakras, the subtle spine, and into the brain. And just by visualizing that and feeling that, if you're Kriya Bandhs, that's what Kriya Yoga is all about, is consciously raising the energy up the spine into the brain. And if you do it impersonally and focusedly, that's a word, you'll just feel more joy. You'll feel happier when you do it. And the more you do it, the more that becomes your habit of emotion. That's your default will be happier. And it's also a great tool for getting out of those times when your emotions get the better of you, negative emotions get the better of you, is you can escape them more quickly by deliberately practicing these kind of things. It is as simple as it sounds, but it also is challenging in that you really have to do it. If you don't, your habitual emotional patterns will just tend to keep reasserting themselves. And one of the ways to know what kind of habitual pattern you're running is in the quiet moments in your life. I think I already shared this with you, that it's often for me, it's the shower, taking a shower. It can be driving a car, it can be taking a walk. But at any time when you're not staring at a screen that's occupying your mind, or you're not talking to someone and that's occupying your mind, or you're not reading and that's occupying mind, if you're just free of any other input, that's a good time to notice what kind of thoughts are running through your brain. And if those thoughts are, well, this was a tough day, and yesterday was a tough day. I wish I didn't have to deal with X, Y, and Z. Those thoughts are born of downward flowing emotional energy. And what is so easy to fall into, I've done it myself, like Mark Twain says about quitting smoking. I've done it myself 1,000 times. I've fallen into thinking, well, I need to fix something. That the way to get out of that emotional experience is to change what's going on in my life. And we forget, or perhaps never do, and don't have a chance to learn. But once you learn, you realize, oh, I can just move the energy in a new way. And that all of those thoughts that accompany those negative emotions will also go away. And instead of seeing your life perhaps as imperfect, or woe is me, or I wish this wasn't this way, or I wish I was a better person, instead you're thinking, oh, I have a great life, and I'm doing really well. I have good friends. I have people I love and care for. I love my job. This could be the same person from yesterday to today, right? And nothing really in your life might have changed, but you changed the flow of energy. You lifted your heart, and that is the real secret to the power, is you can move that energy. You can choose to lift the heart.
That was very well said. Thank you.
Is there any
Any other questions?
John's busy typing, I can see.
Yeah.
While John's typing, no pressure, John. It was interesting. I think I was reading Lightbearer, and it's a little, I mean, Swami was amazing at it. You know, he had these hips that were almost destroyed, and his heart that was irregular, and, you know, all the medical staff would be, how did you get through this? You know, like, what, this is incredible. And he just went, oh, I just thought it was a bit of tapasya. You know, like he really just brushed it off as a part of, and overcome it with what you're talking about, that real positive.
He didn't give the thoughts energy.
Yeah, just not energy at all.
And he was had habituated himself to lean into service, lean into being a channel. And so he told many a story about having a really bad cold, or there was one time in India that I just recently heard about, where he was taking a medication and it was having an adverse side effect. And he was on his way to address a huge crowd in India of 1,000 or more people. And about halfway there, he told his people, you got to stop the car. And he got it and he threw up because he was having such a horrible experience with this drug. And they had to support him all the way into where he was speaking. But once he got up there, all that went away. And people said he gave this brilliant, moving, devotional, crystal clear, high energy talk about loving God. And then back in the car, and he was, back to feeling awful. So he had that knack, which is not an easy one to achieve.
Yeah, very inspiring to have those examples before us and all the ones in your book as well. It's that phrase, mind-blowing. Destroying the old ways of looking at the world and redoing them for a new and better way. We have another little comment. John's comment came in.
Yes, John, he said, I think of last week's affirmation, what I do today will create a new and better future filled with inner joy. It's a beautiful affirmation.
Yes. Yes. And keep doing it. I think I actually shared this with you all in a previous gathering, but I say it again and again to all groups that most of us don't use our affirmations to best effect because we kind of relate to them as a pill. We say our affirmation, it's like tossing down the vitamin, and then we forget about it. But really what an affirmation is, how it benefits us is it changes what we actually believe. And then once we actually believe it with heart, soul, and mind, then that becomes an active manifester in our life. It becomes a part of who we are. So like those beliefs I had when I got into that car accident, they were already there for a variety of reasons, but that's what you want affirmations to achieve for you, that you believe it unquestioningly and that you believe it with power and that it fills you with power. And that can take, weeks to months of repetition. I have certain affirmations that I've been saying for years, and they're like old friends. And when I stop saying them for a while for one reason or another and pick them up again, I can feel they've changed me already. I want to use them to change me more, but I can recognize that the degree of my belief in it is more real than it ever had been before I started doing the affirmation. So pick one you really like and do it over and over and over until you have unquestioning belief in what you're affirming.
Thank you. Yes, they're an amazing tool, aren't they? And your book talks about all the different tools, and it's wonderful to touch on, some of the tools that we've got access to. Lynn put in a question. She said, can you please discuss how we can help someone we love, which is stuck in a very negative pattern of thinking and responding to others, how to keep our own energy strong and joyous in the face of this?
That's a great question.
Really lovely.
Lynn.
Thank you.
Well, I don't want to make it sound easy, but the first thing that you put in your question is perhaps the most important thing, which is that you do need to stay positive and powerful. That's the first thing you need to do in order to help someone who needs help. Because if you start to lose your energy and your emotions start to be affected, you become less and less able to be helpful. So take extra time. If you're a caregiver or you're in a stressful situation, just realize the importance. Say to yourself the importance of staying in that higher consciousness. When you meditate, try not to let the usual flow of thoughts carry your concentration away, but instead focus on how important it is to be centered and to keep your focus at the point between the eyebrows, because it's there you begin to feel more and more deeply the presence of spirit. So that's number one. And again, I'm saying it just not because I doubt you understand that, but to just reaffirm how important it is to make every effort to stay positive. And then, boy, working with others who are in difficulty is always a challenge. And it would depend a lot on what it is, how I might answer. Compassion, cheerfulness. If you're too cheerful, you can just really piss somebody off who you're trying to take care of. So there's no real easy answer to it. Stay strong, stay loving, stay patient. And I guess listen to your intuition. Because I don't know your particular situation, as I say, I'm not sure I could offer anything general that might help, but listen to your intuition. Ask every day in meditation, what should I do today? Help me understand what is going to be the best thing I can do for this person. And just keep trying to tune into that as well as you can. And then be patient. Don't have high expectations. If they're in a serious condition, you may have to get yourself into a state where this could be for years, could be for decades. This person is going to be like this, whether they're in some sort of emotional state or physical state. Accept it as this is what God wants you to do. Not an easy recipe. I wish I had an easy answer. In some ways, for me, it's easier to be sick than to try to figure out how to take care of someone who is sick, because I'm just not inside them. Thus, the need for intuition and the need for having faith that you're there, you're in that position you are in for a reason, and trust that.
Thank you. Wonderful advice. And I really, I feel, and I think on a similar line, I guess because that's a person that we're talking to and obviously someone I relate to, but you mentioned in your journey as well that within the medical profession, that advice that often we take blindly can be an affirmation in itself. So, if you weren't grounded in your belief system and what it was, and it's very easy to get caught into turning up to a doctor or in an emergency situation and really understand that person coming across can give you or affect your affirmations of positivity. So maybe you could expand on that a little of, obviously your experience, but also the tools that we can take into that.
Yeah, it's a good point. And it is if you're in a situation where you're seeking some care from a doctor for whatever reason, whether you had a serious condition or like I did, a traffic accident, or you're just going in for some kind of, less serious condition, but one that you want to take care of. There are many things that Western medicine can do that are, I would say, yes, take advantage of them. I didn't really have anything personally that they could do that Western medicine does best, which is trauma care. I didn't have any bones they could splint. I didn't have anything they could operate on and realign. I'm blessed. I'm fortunate that I didn't. That brings up another funny story. One of my favorites, actually, from my experience. When I woke up in the hospital after having been admitted to the emergency ward, and then I ended up in the intensive care ward, and that's where I woke up. And I was just sort of coming to, looking around. I was a little out of it because they had filled me full of painkillers some nights in the night. So I was, as they say, feeling no pain. And this guy came up. He didn't identify himself at all. And he said, well, hi, Mr. Selbie, how are you doing? And because I was feeling no pain and I was lying there, I said, well, I'm fine, I'm great. And he said, well, I'm sorry to tell you, but there's nothing we can do for you. And normally when you say that or you hear that, it means you're going to die, right? There's nothing they can do for me because you're in a terminal condition or your spinal cord is so severed that you're never going to walk again. And I'm really sorry about it, but there's nothing we can do for you. But what he actually meant, and apparently surgeons are notorious for this lack of bedside manner, what he actually meant was there's nothing wrong enough with you that surgery would do any good. So I didn't have to go through that and experience that part of medicine. But, if you need that kind of trauma care, I wouldn't say, ignore it and try to heal by the power of mind, unless you've already, and there's very, very few people on earth that I think could say this truthfully, unless you've already been able to heal yourself and you can heal yourself, then I would say, accept that kind of care. Where Western medicine can be problematical is when you get into diseases that Western medicine considers to be incurable or terminal. Now, you still may want to have some of that care. Chemotherapy may very well be something that you decide you want to have. The way I think of that is that even though chemotherapy is rarely a complete cure, there's often the chance of some kind of remission. It nonetheless knocks the disease back, knocks the cancer back enough that it buys you time to use your other healing powers to heal. So unless you're ready to check out, which can also be a fair decision. A friend of my father's who was in his 70s or something, I forget at that, he may have been 80, was diagnosed with cancer, and he just said, I'm done. I'm ready to go. It's been a good life. I don't want to go through all the agony of chemotherapy and have it perhaps work or perhaps not work, and have the last 5 years of my life be a mess and unhappy and painful. I'm just going to go. So I think that's quite all right. You don't have to stay in this world. You're sure enough going to get another chance, unless you've realized God in this one. You're going to get another chance to come back and revisit. So I wouldn't worry about death, and do chemotherapy and those kind of things because you're afraid to die. But what Nara was alluding to is that what comes with those treatments is often the worst thing that you can get, which is that you can get estimates from people who truly themselves believe that you have X number of months to live, or this kind of heart disease is rarely cured and you're going to be on drugs for the rest of your life. And these are powerful affirmations to you, especially if you're in their care and you're down in energy, maybe down in your emotions. So it's really good and almost essential that if you do enter into that care, either voluntarily or involuntarily, like I did, is to have an advocate, have somebody who can be with you as much as possible to kind of fend off that. They can see it coming and keep you from hearing it and say, doctor, can I talk to you out in the hallway? And the doctor doesn't know, they're not going to tell you what the doctor just said. But the healthy person can receive this sort of thing, perhaps as a service to the unhealthy person, because that is really strong stuff. It's hard to disbelieve that you're going to die from cancer in 2 years because you have lymphoma, when they tell you, well, that's the statistic born of thousands of people who have had lymphoma. What they don't tell you, and what they should tell you, is that there are also people who have lived far beyond these estimates. And in fact, there are people who have healed from lymphoma altogether, but they rarely do that. Most doctors buy into the model that you're toast when you get these diseases, and it's really just a matter of time. And so, you know, in a way, Western medicine is going to have a lot to answer for in the future, because people who could have healed probably didn't heal because they so powerfully believed that they couldn't heal. So don't accept the limited prognoses of Western medicine for any condition. There's no disease that is incurable, and even extraordinarily rapid healing is possible.
Thank you. That was a very powerful sentence to end on, with this time with you and with all of you. And thank you so much for this message that's come through you and these books.